And we begin tonight at 6 with live Doppler 13 radar. You can see this line of storms now moving into Indiana. All of this comes, of course, as our city is getting ready for the Final Four and what's going to be a busy weekend in downtown Indy.
Yes, we want Chamber of Commerce weather.
Yes.
Doesn't look like we're going to get it all the time. We have some peaks and some windows, so we're in the Weather Center with Angela to kind of track down what we're going to see, starting with the impact tonight.
And the impact tonight centers around severe weather and perhaps some damaging wind gusts. Can't rule out an isolated tornado. Just within the last 15 minutes or so, we have our first warning within this line of thunderstorms that's approaching western Indiana. The warning comes to the state line. It's just southeast of Champaign. Severe thunderstorm warning, potential for damaging wind gusts with this line, and an isolated tornado. The greater threat of tornadoes is up to our northwest. They've had several confirmed tornado warnings in the eastern sections of Iowa. It's warm, it's windy out there this evening. Temperatures between 75 and 80 for most of us, and winds are still gusting 30, 40 miles per hour plus. We have another hour left on the wind advisory that's not associated with that line of storms, but the line of storms brings with it the threat of damaging wind gusts in excess of 60 miles per hour and an isolated tornado. You can see the severe threat there. We're expecting this line to move from west to east between now and about midnight, keeping our fingers crossed that these storms start to weaken as they move our way, something we'll keep you updated on this evening.
All right, Angela, thanks so much. And don't forget, you can now stream our new live local radar 24/7. You can watch the storm as it rolls in anytime around the clock. You can also check the forecast whenever you want. You can use this QR code. You can stream now on WTHR Plus and watch it free.
Tonight at 6, we're hearing from the aunt of an 11-year-old girl who died in her home in Stylesville after alleged abuse by her own dad and stepmom.
We've now learned another family member now is also charged in the case. He allegedly knew about the abuse, but allegedly didn't get help.
Our Brandon Schaff tonight talks about the extended family's efforts to create a law to prevent this kind of thing from happening again.
After Oakland Vasquez died in her Stylesville home in February, her aunt spoke at a vigil in March honoring her life. She spoke about creating Oakland's law to protect kids from abuse. Victoria Gines started the petition to support the law, which calls for harsher penalties when people know about abuse but fail to report it.
People knew what was happening to her and they chose to stay silent. I think those people need to be held accountable.
Vasquez was found in her home on February 14th. Court documents described a long-standing pattern of neglect and abuse by her father, Kenneth Vasquez, and stepmother, Elba Vasquez. They are charged with neglect of a dependent resulting in death. Documents revealed Elba's adult son, Edmund Cruz Mendez, was also questioned by police and described the ongoing abuse to police. He's now facing a felony charge of neglect of a dependent and a misdemeanor charge of failure to make a report. Gines says it's important to protect kids who can't protect themselves.
People need to start speaking up and saving these children because they are killing our future.
According to Prevent Child Abuse Indiana, there were at least 18,000 DCS hotline calls in February alone for abuse and neglect concerns.
It is not just school professionals or doctors. It is every single resident of Indiana is required to report to the Department of Child Services if they have concerns that abuse and neglect is occurring.
Have you had the opportunity to speak with any lawmakers yet?
I actually did wake up this morning to a comment on one of my posts for my petition. An individual who has worked with the legislature here in the state for the last 6 years and wants to get with me on the possibility of putting a bill together.
Gines's petition already has hundreds of signatures, including some from around the world.
That should really go to show how much of a problem this is, that people are recognizing it and really, really want a change.
Long-lasting change while remembering Oakland's life. Brandon Schaff, 13 News.
Prevent Child Abuse Indiana added reports can be made anonymously, but the more information that you can give investigators helps them follow up and helps keep children safe from harm.
Tonight, the family of a boy raped on his school bus is now suing the Jennings County School Corporation, the bus driver, and the bus monitor.
This federal civil suit was filed just a day after a jury convicted 16-year-old Landon Doty on a dozen charges. Now, Rich Nye has the latest developments in this troubling case. Rich?
Yes, Scott, that lawsuit is 38 pages long and describes in detail disturbing details of 14 sexual assaults last spring as they are seen on school bus surveillance video. And that video was the key evidence in the jury convicting Landon Doty on Wednesday of rape, child molesting, sexual battery, confinement, and public indecency. Doty was 15 years old at the time of the sexual assaults. The nonverbal 7-year-old boy with autism was assigned to sit next to Doty on the bus for students with special needs. Doty testified in the trial that he did nothing sexual to the boy. Doty's grandmother and guardian was stunned by the guilty verdicts.
He can't believe it. I know that's what he's thinking. He couldn't understand why he even got arrested. None of us could. He didn't even know why he was being arrested.
The civil lawsuit alleges that these preventable and horrific acts occurred as a result of a complete failure to properly supervise and protect a vulnerable, nonverbal child who depended entirely on the adults charged with his care. Doty's sentencing hearing is not yet scheduled, and the Jennings County School Corporation has not yet replied today to my request for comment on the verdict or this new lawsuit.
Thank you, Rich. Tonight, the Marion County coroner is working to identify a woman who was killed on the east side of Indianapolis. Police telling 13 News they found that woman shot around 11:45 last night on Carlisle Place near Michigan Street and Emerson Avenue. We're told that lady died at the hospital. Police arrested one person in connection to that shooting.
Tonight, a big drug bust on the near north side of Indy ends with 18 people in jail.
Police executed the warrants on 2 homes Wednesday. Tonight, Ashton Hackman explains what detectives say they found inside.
Metro Police says this drug investigation started earlier this year after several members in the community came forward with tips about that green and red house and potential drug activity.
On Wednesday, IMPD moved in. Detectives surrounded the home near 37th and Capitol, then walked suspects out one by one. Inside, police say they found a cocaine operation, needles, pipes, and drug paraphernalia scattered throughout, along with multiple digital scales still coated in residue.
Those are narcotics that are now being seized that are not circulating within our community. We're taking them off the street, and that's always a positive.
And it wasn't just drugs. Police also recovered 2 handguns, dozens of rounds of ammunition, and more than $1,800 in cash. Investigators say this case started with neighbors speaking up.
Without their information and them coming forward, we don't get this type of investigation.
An investigation ending with a drug house cleared out. In Indianapolis, Ashton Hackman, 13 News.
Indy DPW just announced plans to speed up the 16th Street bridge closure. They didn't give a specific timeline, but they did say the project managers now are working with contractors to come up with a plan to bring more workers on board and expand the daily hours to speed up the repairs there. DPW says it hears concerns from the community about the plans to fully close the bridge for 2 years, but they say a partial closure isn't safe. Tonight, there's a community meeting to discuss the plans there. We have crews that are at that meeting, and we'll bring you what happens there here tonight on 13 News at 11.
Tonight, we're taking a closer look at human trafficking across Indiana. I interviewed a 21-year-old Indiana woman who was trafficked as a 12-year-old. We are protecting her identity, calling her April. She told me she met the perpetrator through social media.
At the time, I thought he was helping me out, getting me away from my parents' house, and then ended up finding out later on by police that he was ended up being a sex trafficker.
April was trafficked for 2 to 3 years, but her life has changed thanks in part to a local organization called Allies. They work with survivors of human trafficking. You'll see that story tonight on 13 News at 11. Angela?
Scott, tracking a line of potentially severe thunderstorms this evening. I'll also look ahead to Friday and your weekend.